Welcome to Power Your Profits podcast, your friendly guide in bringing your business revenue to the next level. Listen as host Susie Carder hears inspiring stories of success from her fellow entrepreneurs and transformational leaders. Prepare to make significant change to your strategies as they unravel the secrets of building multi-million-dollar businesses and the most effective tips on finance, marketing, and sales accountability. If you want to make your first step towards explosive business growth, this is the right podcast for you. Without further ado, here is your host, Susie.
Welcome to Power Your Profits podcast. I am your host, Susie Carder, and I'm excited to share with you my friend, Hannah Chapman. She's the CEO and founder of X Squared Wealth Planning, where she empowers visionary entrepreneurs to stop worrying about money, take charge of their income, build their business and their financial legacy with ease and joy. Please welcome to the show, Hannah. Hannah, thank you so much for joining us. I am so excited because your industry kind of has a bad rap. I'm just going to be honest. Like I remember meeting with Planner and I said, well, what's your net worth? Well, what's your strategy? Well, how much do you have in your portfolio? She got so mad at me. And I'm like, wait, isn't this your job? Shouldn't you just be able to tell me? She would not tell me. So I did not use her, obviously. And what I love is that you help entrepreneur women live their dreams. So tell me who you serve and what you're most passionate about. Like, what's your niche? What's your strategy? So tell me about that.
Oh, it's so juicy. Thank you for having me on, Susie. This is such an important conversation to have because of exactly what you just said. My industry, my poor industry, right, has such a bad rap because there's so much not listening going on from the advisor side of the table. And when I step in to work with my clients, that's the thing that's different. And I work with entrepreneurs. So the way I like to describe them the most is that they are visionary entrepreneurs that want to make a dent in the universe, that they are here to change something. And every single one of them is a little bit different. And when I can help these visionary entrepreneurs build more wealth, more quickly, more efficiently, with more joy and ease, they turn around and they spread that so much farther because they have this piece of them that they want to pour out of. Right. And I'll give you an example because I think this illustrates the point so perfectly. Have a client who she is a consultant. She's a DEI consultant, such a beautiful human. She works to really take research in universities and like scientific research and make that a safe space for women of color and people of color. And she's doing beautiful work in the world. And when we did her financial plan to see how she could build her wealth, when we got to the part where she could see what it was going to look like down the road, she told me how much she wanted to help, that she wanted to create this, generational wealth for her family and create a space in the world where she could help other children and help lift up other people of color. And I'm like, goosebumps.
Right.
Just goosebumps, right? Like when my clients see what they're doing now, and when we make those, adjustments to how they're working in their business, how they're building their wealth, they're just little adjustments, truly, that when you expand them over time, it turns into millions upon millions of dollars. And when you have someone who sees those millions of dollars and says, oh my gosh, I can build the foundation. I can create that, housing for the homeless. I can feed so many children. That just, my heart, it just like explodes open. And it's like, let's do it. Let's create that because you are going to you already are, but you're going to do even more.
Yeah, I started helping women a little more selfishly because I was on a couchette in Italy, journal writing, like, I want to travel with my girlfriend. And then my next thing was, I need girlfriends that need money. So I'm like, I don't know,
Yes.
women make their own money. So I love that we're the girl gang together and we can make this
Yes.
happen, right?
Yeah.
When I was young, I wanted to find someone like you because women weren't really known. I'm a little seasoned, Hannah, just a little more seasoned than you. Right. There wasn't a lot of women in that industry. And I found Suzanne Latour, who was just a straight shooter with me. Like, girl, you gotta stop spending your money. You don't need another pair of shoes. Like, I would have never taken that from a man, but a woman, you don't need another pair of shoes. You don't need another bag. I want you to put that money away. Let's watch that grow. Like just that tough love of tell me like it is. Where if a man told me that, I would have been insulted and like, oh, how dare he? Like she was
Right.
like, just call me on my crap, which I love.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean,
Okay.
you make a point. I mean, even still, 18%, 18 to 20% of the industry is women.
Yeah.
In the financial advice industry. So we are still a very small percentage. And during COVID, I want to say, I heard something around 30% or so of women stepped back from the financial advisory space. And so, I mean, like we shrank from COVID because of all of the pressures that we live day to day, all of us, women entrepreneurs who we are still primary caregivers and primary now like school facilitators and, all of the things, right, that we had to be during COVID. And
how did you get into financial planning? Because it isn't traditionally, like, it's interesting. My daughter's in that field, right? Not financial planning. She's an equity investor, right? But that's because mom was like, where's the money? Where's the money? If I learned anything, let's follow the money.
Right. Yeah. Well, so what's interesting is that when I was little, I was obsessed with counting money. So like we had those, like the big, like a 5-gallon jug, right?
Yeah.
Jug, and we would fill it full of coins. I was probably like 6 or 7. I would dump the whole thing out and like spend a whole weekend rolling coins, and counting money, like it was just, I was slightly obsessed. And I thought it would be so much fun to work at a bank, right? Like that would be like my dream job. Like, so yeah, like you get banker's hours, you get special days off, you get to count people's money. Like, yeah, 7-year-old Hannah thought that would be great. So fast forward, I graduated from college with a flute performance degree. So I have all this creative energy, and also like the math side of my brain is still like, I'm still loving counting money. And I started working at a local bank. And that was really it. That was my first full-time job out of college. And I loved working with the business owners that would come in and just talk. And they bring their drops and we count all their money and we do all their deposits and they tell us how their business was going. And I loved it. I loved it. And from there, it was actually a leap from banking to financial services, like financial planning side. Because my husband got into grad school and in a different part of the country. So I'm like, okay, well, we're going to go he's going to go to grad school. I'll work and I'll get another job at a bank. I applied at like 20 different banks and no one would even call me back. But because of my experience while I was in college, I was a flute performance major, but what I really did was I built a flute studio. So I taught private flute lessons and I built the largest flute studio in the city outside of, the college campus.
Right.
And so, like I did that, and
it was that entrepreneurial spirit and counting money.
I love counting money. I built a business, right? And so I applied to work at a big broker dealer. I was like, well, maybe I could do this job instead, like be a financial advisor. They hired me immediately because of my banking and studio building experience.
Right. I love that.
Yeah. So it was really interesting. I was like, well, look at what that did. So, I got fully licensed, Series 7, 66, all the stuff that you have to do in order to be in financial services. And I did not make it through my first 12 weeks. It was actually a terrifying experience.
Why was it terrifying?
Oh my gosh.
Look, I'm like, I have chest anxiety just thinking about it.
It was the hardest thing I ever did in my whole life. Like I will be fully honest, going into like moving across the country, being in a fully new city, I had to get 5 clients in order to stay in that role in 12 weeks. So I busted my ass so hard. Like
Telling everyone, look, again, entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Clients are being handed to you. You're like, oh, that is awesome. You got to get 5 or you can't. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, it was, there's a whole lot of sales PTSD actually from that time in my life. And I didn't end up with enough clients to keep moving forward. And so that was one of my first entrepreneurial failures.
Yeah.
It felt like a big one. Like I was crushed.
Well, you're letting yourself down. You're letting your husband down. You're supposed to be the breadwinner when he goes to school, like so much pressure.
Yeah, it was a lot. And
I'm laughing with you, not laughing at you. I'm just saying.
No, it's true. Like, yeah, absolutely. And because, I mean, I was so driven, I was fully licensed and I was like, okay, I just need, something has to work out here. So I got picked up as a paraplanner for a large practice in the area. And that turned into my professional home for the next 13 years. And what that did, it was actually the blessing in disguise that I needed, because instead of like building from scratch and working with just whoever I could get at the very beginning, I started doing financial planning for like executives at Procter and Gamble, like from the get-go. So I got to cut my teeth on just all of these super complicated situations, people who had stock options and restricted stock units and business owners who had, thriving businesses and teachers and firefighters and lawyers. And I just had this huge array of experience working there doing the comprehensive financial planning work. So before I ever stepped into a client meeting of my own, where I was the advisor, I had a decade of experience,
right?
Not just doing the planning, but what's hilarious is that when someone else does all of your financial planning, I was doing all the work and handing it to the advisors who were presenting it to their clients. And then they would call me and they'd be like, Hannah, I don't know how to present this. Like, what does this mean? Can you call the client and tell them what this means? So I was also getting all that practice, literally like turning things into these big financial concepts, turning them into what can this client like understand?
Right.
So I was doing that in writing, and then I was, talking through it with clients and building relationships before I was ever even an advisor. And when I got bored, I got tired, right? I'm like I started when I was 23, early 30s. I was like, I'm pretty bored of passing my work along. And also there was a year where I would normally get like 7 to 10% raises every year because I kicked ass, right? I was like rock star employee. And then one year I got like a 5% raise. And they were like, it's not because we didn't want to give you the bigger raise, but you're just kind of hitting the ceiling of what we want to pay for your position. And I was like, oh no. 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 That's not where we stop. This is not where Hannah stops.
Right.
And that was the next push to be like, okay, what's next? Where do I go from here?
Okay, so why entrepreneurs versus like the bigger companies, Procter and Gamble's, the city, the firemen, and why? Because we're tough nuts. Like we're not, we are a little resistant. Like invest in myself. I got this bill to pay. Like, hold on. So why entrepreneurs?
Because for so many reasons. First of all, my parents were entrepreneurs. Not just my parents, my aunts, uncles, grandparents on both sides, my brothers, like my entire family is self-employed. And most of my life, especially like young growing up, I just thought they were too stubborn and like couldn't get along with others and like does not play well with others. That is why you can't be an employee. And I thought maybe it was a character flaw.
There's some truth to that though.
Right? Yeah. I mean, yeah, like there's a whole spectrum. And I actually was really like, I didn't realize that was my tie, because when I started working with business owners at my old firm, I was noticing that the other advisors would, okay, how much money are you taking from your business? How much are you making? All right, well, we'll plan from that. And so we would create this whole like financial plan based on what income they were taking from their business. And then when anything went wrong in the business, immediately, right? They're like, nope, we can't do that. And also we're going to take everything out because we have to fix. And so when it would come to it, when I would come into the situation and start to dig into why, okay, what's going wrong? It's always an issue that, is like, we're putting this wall up. Right. And I'm just going to tell you what's over here so you can plan for it. And I'm not going to tell you what's going on this side.
Right.
And so when I came in and was able to like get them to soften and open and tell me what's going on, like when we can look at the business and how it relates, suddenly things change. Like they're able to make different choices. Right. So it's a lot of what you do as well. It's right. It's like teaching people how to create a profitable business, because once you can create a profitable business, then you can get the profit out and build your wealth. But if all you're doing is just looking at that side and you're not building the relationship so that entrepreneur trusts that you have their best interest in mind all the time, like we're not a particularly trusting bunch, right? And like there's a lot, like everyone wants to sell to us. Everyone wants, something for it. That's what it feels like. Someone always wants something from you. So to be in the seat that says, no, we are here. I am here on your team to build your business with you. And that is how you succeed. Suddenly we're able to have the conversations that, that they can understand how to.
And we're usually just give you a budget. I've got this much that I'm going to allocate to that. It's like, well, is that right? Should we be doing something else? And again, you're an anomaly. You're a unicorn. I just want to say that out loud. I've met a lot of financial planners. And when I say, like you want to understand the piece, right? That's the man I worked with, is there's the whole piece. And it's like, Susie, don't take more money. Let's put in an executive bonus plan. You don't need more money. You've got plenty of money. Let's do other things with it to grow that money systemically. It's like, okay. Versus, just educating me. Like when I first started working with him, I had to open my eyes really big. Like that was going to make me understand more, because he would talk about, I don't know what you mean. And so I think when you grow up with entrepreneurs, you know how to take complicated issues and simplify them. Because financial and wealth strategy can be complicated. It doesn't have to be hard. It has to be strategic, but we have to get it as entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Right? There's so much emotion that goes into it. So let's talk about that, because you work on that as well. The emotional, financial ties and decision-making processes. So how do you help us? I'm saying us because I still have it too, right? It's like security. I don't want I want it liquid.
Yes. And that's the crux. That is where the breakdown happens for most people, is that, you can create the most beautiful financial plan. I can give you all of these recommendations. Here's the charts. Look how they go up. That's what you want. Everything, right? That's so nice. Here are, the 5 recommendations, and, save this much to this kind of account, blah, 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 right? You can write all of that out. And if you don't work with that entrepreneur to actually figure out how they make decisions and what emotional roadblocks are going to come up along the way, they will never be able to implement that plan, or they will start to implement it. And when things, when a fire starts, they'll pull it right back out. And I know, because I experienced it with my clients, over the last, so many years. And it took me a while. It took me a while to figure that out, because our process was, you meet with people once every 6 months.
Right. Well, you're the first to go, right? And which is me, which is bizarre. So even now, like I'll go, okay, wait, I need to put that on hold because I don't know what's happening. Like when COVID hit, stop everything. I don't know what's happening.
Right.
And then I had to make up for that when I stopped everything to go, well, I got to make up for this because this is the plan, which is just crazy making for myself. And he told me that, but I'm like, I just need that security. Right. So it's understanding there is, especially for entrepreneurs, because we don't know. We know, but we don't know. Right. It's that predictable predictability, if you will,
Yes.
inside of that. So what are the things we should be doing as entrepreneurs? Like, what are your musts when you go, okay, when I work with an entrepreneur, to build your wealth, you must?
Yeah. So for me, we start with two things. And the very first piece that most of my clients come to me for is because they are on the back foot with taxes. Like they're constantly like freaked out about what their tax bill is going to be. And they like, this is seriously almost every single client I have. They used everything they had to pay their tax bill last year, and they're like scrambling, right? Or they extended all the way to October so that they could pay that last tax bill. And now they have to scramble for the next year. And they can't ever seem to get out of the loop of, to where they're on the front side, prepared. And there's the two pieces that go with that really. From my perspective are, creating a system for your income where you are consistently saving towards your taxes, right? So you're funding it throughout the year. You get on the front side so that a lot of times it's that first year we work together is just getting on the front side. And then we can implement the system of, whatever the percentage is, 8%, 10%, 15, whatever's right for that person, that we're going to shave off every single time you get paid. We're going to shave it off and put it away. That is not your savings account. That is a tax account. And there are lots of different ways. That's not a recommendation for anyone in particular. There are lots of ways to handle taxes for a solopreneur who has, few $100,000 of revenue up to $1 million of revenue. Like a lot of times that's the first step, is we carve it off systematically. The second piece is really creating the business cash reserve. And this is the place where you create your own safety. You create your own inner safety in your business, because if something happens, if COVID happens again, if you get, an illness that takes you out for a while, if you have some sort of, overnight a competitor comes and like things change, right? If you have to pivot your business, that business cash reserve will give you the buffer of time. It gives you time to pivot your business, to figure out your next step so that you can, move from a place of power and decision rather than from reaction. And when I start with my clients, we take it in stages, get it up to 3 months. What are your regular expenses that you would have to pay to keep your business going? Let's get it up to 3 months, and then 6 months, and then 9 months. And that doesn't mean you're going to have like millions of dollars sitting in cash, but it does mean we're going to have like a war chest set aside in some way, shape, or form that you can get to, so that you have that safety while you're still funding your business, while you're still growing, right? We figure out how you do all of those things at the same time.
Right. And again, it doesn't have to be hard, right? Because we're entrepreneurs. What I love is I write my own paycheck. When I don't have a paycheck, is because I didn't write it this month, meaning I got distracted by the non-essential things that are bringing me revenue. So again, what you're saying, I've been using in my business for years. Like, it works for my peace of mind, right? So when COVID did hit, even though I freaked out, I didn't have to freak out, right? That was just human response of what's happening. And how long is this going to last? That was really we did not intend it to last this long, but
it'll be done in 3 weeks.
Having exactly what you said, those two systems in place. And I've not been in the tax situation, thank God, knock on wood, because I learned early on, right? I learned early on, you pay them first, right? Pay yourself, pay the taxes, make sure you do that first. So let's shift just a little bit. Let's talk about, you kind of talked about your failure, like what your biggest failure was. Is there any other one that's been a big life lesson around building your wealth that you like to go back and go, oh, I shoulda, coulda, woulda?
Yeah. So 2 pieces to that. it hurts like hell when you're going through it. Right. And when you look back on it, it couldn't have been any other way.
Right.
And so for me, the second piece was, so the first big failure was not getting to be, to stay as an advisor in my first 12 weeks and having to move to a support role. The second big failure for me was when I became a client-facing advisor. I was supposed to take over be the successor for an advisor who was in his 70s, was supposed to have retired. We all know these people, they will not retire, right? It gets to be too easy, right? And it is really easy when you just, you just put it on the cycle, and then those clients really aren't getting what they need. And when I started asking questions, those questions being, I was an advisor, I was getting new clients in the door. I was also supposed to be, receiving clients from this other advisor. And I didn't have any clarity around when I would be able to buy my book of business. I didn't have any clarity around when I would be, able to start, really growing and benefiting from the work that I was doing. I was being paid, I don't know, $75,000 or so. And the book that I was working was bringing in $500,000, $600,000 of revenue. And I started saying, what's going on? Like, I'm working so hard, and like, I feel like I'm not really benefiting from it, And so I started asking these questions and feeling, ultimately starting to feel resentful. And that turned into the partners and the team, like, thinking that I was not going to be successful in this role, and telling me so to my face. And there was, I knew that that wasn't right. I'm like, I am good at this job. I am really good at what I do. And I think it's just not here.
Yeah.
It's just not here. And there were a lot of tears. That dream that I had cultivated of like helping build that business, like being, part of this team and making, $500,000 a year there, that was like, oh yeah, I can do that. It's going to be so great. I get to be surrounded by these people. And that was a big vision. I thought I needed their support. I was scared because of my first experience. I was scared. And at the same time, like, knowing that they did not believe in me the way that I believed in me, like my higher self was like, this is not your place, not where you grow. And honestly, it felt like a failure. It was like, it ripped me apart, until it ripped me apart until I was broken down enough to realize that this is it. I have to shift.
Right. We call that the cosmic boot.
Yes, it was. And
the
Brene
universe
Brown
smacks you upside the head and goes, "That's not it." And
this is not you. It was Brene. It was a Brene Brown.
You can only have a pity party for so long because you got to get back to work, right? So there's like a time limit. Okay, my pity party's over. I just pull on my big girl panties. Let me do it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And, I was still trying to build this through this whole time. But I was running and listening to Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. And there was a moment. I have listened to this book probably 5 times. But there was this moment in that book. I can see myself where I was running, where I like broke down into tears, where she says, there's a section in the book that talks about, you either believe. There are 2 kinds of people that believe that you're doing the best, that everyone is doing the best that they can, and people that don't.
Right.
And those that believe that everyone is just doing the best that they can are happier and more fulfilled and more successful on the whole. And when I was like, I was mad. I was really mad at that point. And I was like, no, they're not doing the best that they can. They're not listening to me. They're not taking, me seriously. They're not all of this, victim. And when I heard it again, that time, I just broke down into tears because I realized they're doing the best that they can. And I don't fit there.
Right. And I think that's where you talk about lighting up your desire and then the gap and navigating between the two, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And so what has been, so you're still young, right? And you're not ready to retire,
Oh,
right?
no. Yeah. That'll be a long time. I'm
So
30.
what's been your biggest, what's your biggest wealth strategy for yourself and your family right now?
Right now, my biggest wealth strategy is building my business. And so I am in that place myself, right? Where building my revenue, is my wealth strategy. So, there is a lot. I do it too, putting the money back in the business, right? I pay myself, I pay my taxes, I put money in my profit account. And then we're saving a little bit, what we can, to retirement, but a lot of it is going back into the business right now. With the beautiful result already of being, I think I'm on track for 250 this year, just in my one business, 250,000 of revenue. And I just opened another arm of my business, for coaching and consulting. That will be a fully different revenue stream, and building recurring revenue. That's one of the gifts of what I do. And the way that I do it is that I can build this recurring revenue stream that's every single month. And so that is really a beautiful gift. So I am in building phase myself and I love it.
Yeah.
And I'm also excited for, my own ability to make those big retirement deposits, right? And be like, oh yes, we've got the executive comp in place and we can make those big transfers each year. And I can, pay my employees like abundantly and do big profit sharing, and do profit sharing contributions and things like that. So I'm right there with you.
Oh my gosh.
Everyone listening.
She walks her talk, you guys. She walks her talk. That's awesome. Well,
I save off
love
for my
that.
taxes.
Yeah, you pay the taxes. Well, that's my first wealth strategy is my business, right? My business spends off cash, the cash that I can invest in real estate, I can invest in other businesses, my community, my family, myself, right? So it's a smart strategy. You're not going to get rich on a salary, right? W-2 income. You're not going to build your wealth. Could you be comfortable? Sure. Like, could you have some measly Social Security? Sure. Right. But as an entrepreneur, we pay into that anyway. So we'll get that anyways as an entrepreneur, but let's plan bigger, right? That's my goals. How do we play bigger? How do we plan bigger? And how do we find people that talk our language? Like if you hear the language that Hannah's talking about, really looking at from a multicultural community, from a spiritual based philosophy, from putting your family first, to taking risks, to walking the talk, that all speaks loudly, right? That stuff that you weren't even saying that you were saying speaks loudly of your character and who you are. So how can we play with you? How can people find you and help themselves to figure out their own gap, no matter how old you are? Like, look, we're entrepreneurs. It doesn't matter how old we are. It's never too late to start, right? It's never too late to get back on that horse. Whatever economic challenges we've had in the past, we've all had them, to go get back on the horse, find the right coach, the right advisor, right? It takes a group of people to help you build your wealth. So how do we find you? What can you share with us? How do we schedule time with you? They just want to eat you up.
Yes. So I have two different ways, really to help people right now. And one is, in my container of being an entrepreneurial wealth coach and financial advisor together. And that really is where we build that comprehensive plan that's just for you. And then we walk through it together. And that is through, you can go to my website, x2wealthplanning.com. And there's a contact link right there. You can email me, you can sign up. I have a beautiful PDF that I love that I have my clients do. I call it my Light Up Your Desires journaling prompts. And my clients do this when they come in because I want to know what they want.
Right.
We have to know what you desire first before we can ever point our wealth building in that direction.
Yes.
So that the journaling prompts are free. I send them out, and you get to really like play around with what it is you want for all these different areas of your life. And the new side of my business is called Expansive CEO, and it's expansiveceo.com. And through that arm of my business, I'm doing a mastermind community that I'm so excited about, and a one-time workshop. Well, it's a live workshop is what I'm trying to say, a live interactive workshop where we go through the pieces of discovering what you want, aligning your money, your time, and your energy towards what you want. And then what happens when you expand? What shit is going to break when you start expanding? What do you need to watch out for? Or what are you already experiencing as you expand that you can figure out how to fix and hold that expansion? So it's called the Art of Having It All workshop.
Love it.
Yeah. And so those pieces will be available on expansiveceo.com.
Expansive. Okay.
Yeah. Not expensive.
Yeah.
Expansive CEO.
Okay, great. Hannah, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for who you are. Thank you for being a powerful woman in the world, leading the charge, making the way. We appreciate what you do. We look forward to playing again.
Thank you, Susie.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Power Your Profits podcast. Let these building blocks from today's most successful industry leaders equip you with the necessary resources and tools to finally establish the highly profitable business of your dreams. Want to hear more? Listen to more episodes at https://poweryourprofitspodcast.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the show. Now is your time to rise to the top of your game, so be sure to catch our next episode. Until next time.